trying to copy, the local culture, and it sort of seems that that's not right, that people should actually be allowed to express their own culture in their own way. But of course, the experience of an international student is not someone who's allowed to, I guess, have that luxury, because you're trying to fit in. And so, I mean, is that you were saying earlier on this line as well? That
Yeah, speaking about being an international student, it's not that easy, I would say, because from my personal experience, I never could actually live, not in a luxurious way, I would say, but at least in a way that I wanted to, because just because I'm an international student, I faced so many things in my 2 years of my life here. When I look for jobs, I always get the job which no one wants. I always get the pay that no one even in their wildest dreams would ever imagine. This bloke comes to me and say, okay, I'll give you $5 an hour, you come and wash the car for me. And that's actually something for me, because if I sit at home and just search internet for a million job, I wouldn't even get a single buck, so I would prefer to do that $5 job. And that's how my life was for the past 2 years. So yeah, I would definitely say from my experience, and I'm quite sure that people like me who are sitting just on the other side of me would actually say the same experience. And I've seen people saying, this is one of the meetings that I had been to. This student comes and said that he was offered a job in a car wash, and I was just wondering how it happened in a country like this, where he was offered a job and he was told to work for over a month as a trainee without a pay, and on the 30th day he said, okay, he's fired from the job, just saying that he's not too good. And he actually worked his heart out for the 30th day, and he didn't even get a single cent. And he was crying when he was saying it in the meeting. And I was wondering why it is happening. As far as that student is concerned, he doesn't know what to do. He faced that really, really bad experience. Now he doesn't know what to do, where to go, whom to speak. So
I think you're not the only one who's had similar stories, anecdotes. I think a few of the others, you've got similar sort of experiences.
Certainly. Well, my kind of story is a bit different than what my friend had to offer. Well, there was this a Friday night, me and my couple of friends, this particularly one of my mates, he used to live in India with me, and he was sort of from the village, and wasn't so proficient in his English, so we went to the local pub and we said, all right, we'll have a couple of drinks. And there was some biker gang there with their bikes standing outside, they were parked. And my mate was standing outside, he's just waiting there, and he just had a look at the bike, and he started posing right next to the bike and started taking pictures and all that. So this chick comes out and he says, hey, you better step off from the bike because these people are really nasty people, they're going to kill you. And since his English wasn't that good, he didn't understand what she was saying. So he's still clicking pictures, and then this guy, the guy who owns the bike, comes up and he says, hey, what you doing? And this guy is still standing there taking pictures like anything. And he's like, hey, do you want to die? And he's still taking pictures. Then the guy, the boss of the gang, came outside and he said, hey, what's happening? And I came outside as well, and I'm experiencing all of this. And the boss of the gang just says, and this guy is arguing to my mate, and he say, hey, leave this guy alone, I like his guts, he's just standing there clicking pictures, he doesn't care what you say. He actually gave him his phone number, he said, anytime you're in trouble, call me.
I think that is great. But it sort of touches on a point you raised also as well in terms of expectations and impressions when you sort of first arrive in Australia as opposed to what you were sort of expecting. Sort of, I guess it becomes this land of opportunity in many ways, and then it turns out you have an experience like you unfortunately had. I guess something we don't often think about here in Australia, and you mentioned this earlier as well, was the expectations are not only in terms of employment and so on, but they're coming from external areas as well, such as your parents. And something that a lot of people don't really think about is and then they sort of see, and I've thought this myself, I'm guilty of it, because I worked, I mentioned, for a little while trying to create a social program for international students in Brisbane. And one of the tricky things we found was that a lot of international students were either working or studying, and nothing came in between there because they didn't have the time. But part of that was not so much that they didn't want to, but because of the expectations. And I guess if you could, anyone could comment on those.
Actually, yes, that's really one of the heavy loads that we are carrying every day, because we're thinking our parents are expecting us. They're spending the money. That weight is on our heads. I mean, we better perform. We don't have a choice about performing, but we better perform. It's like we have to tell them what our results are. We have to tell them how well we did. And it includes also finding a job. You know, we come with this confidence saying, oh, you know, it's a land of opportunity. Let us just go out there, get a job. I'm sure it won't be so hard. And we also have a set of qualifications we come with, and we've been working, and most of us have been working back there. We have our studies, everything, and we just go. And I, for one, didn't have a job for 1 year, and I was working for an advertising agency for 5 years, and I worked myself way up from a junior executive to be a manager. And I was working for 5 years, and I really worked hard, and I learned everything, and I worked in English as well. Business language in Sri Lanka is English. So most of people, like, you know, you have the English, you have the qualifications. You expect everything to just come, and I failed every time I applied. And you just go, what's wrong with you? You begin self-doubt within yourself about your capabilities. And then you have that thing, my gosh, I have failed myself, I have failed my parents. You know, where do you go with that? Because we're carrying, and today I had we were studying a subject, and we had to organize a group activity to go out somewhere, see somewhere in Melbourne, and few of my friends, we were talking, and this girl tells me, you know what, Manju, I've been here now 1.5 years, we're almost completing our course, and would you believe that I haven't seen a single thing around? I haven't gone anywhere. And I was saying, you haven't been to the museum? I'm like, no way. You didn't? And she says, no, I'm studying and I'm working. I said, you know what? I really want to go somewhere. So let's go somewhere really good because I want to go. Because they're carrying the weight. They can't afford to miss a shift and go anywhere else. And I'm not saying it's the best way. Sometimes we just don't open our eyes until we realize that we've missed out on our time that we're living here.
When I was working here in the beginning, it was a good job. It was a marketing job, and later I realized that was a very bad decision for me to actually join that company because they were ripping me off. Because in the end, I was doing good sales, but they never paid me the money, and citing all the, I don't know, silliest reasons, they just didn't pay me the money. So, but back home, as she said, you know, parents back home, they have a huge expectations on you. They spend this money and they think that, okay, our future is in their hand, like in our hands, and everything is going to be perfect for the rest of their lives. And even if we are facing this many difficulties here, we never address these problems back home. We never have the guts to tell every time we say, Mom, Dad, everything is good here. We are doing perfectly fine, and you don't have to even worry about it. When I was doing the job, as I said, and I stopped that job because I couldn't even earn a single buck, so I stopped the job. And then I didn't have a job for like 2 months, and then, you know, all the money that I saved from the first job, it actually helped me to survive for the next few days. And I literally didn't have anything to eat for 8 days, 10 days or something. I was literally drinking water, and I couldn't cut my hair, I couldn't shave. I was looking so bad, and I didn't even go out of my room. So one day I was going out of the room, I don't know, for something, and this guy comes all of a sudden, and this guy was a neighbor back home. I never wanted him to see me in that way, and I begged him, please don't tell this to my parents, and he actually did.
Goodness gracious.
It's not, okay, everyone, we laugh now, but it was not a laughing matter for me now, because my mother, she didn't actually eat for the next 1 month, and it actually made her sick. So, I don't know, the way the situations here does actually have an impact back home, in any positive or negative way.
I would like to share some knowledge on it. So I have to share. After coming here, seeing the laid-back environment and everything, it has made me a better person. The thing which I genuinely noticed is back home, parents push their children a lot. They want their children to be competent enough. They need to be. They just think their children are ideal. And they are the best children in the world, and they should score the best marks. They should have the best job, and they do the best for us when they send us here, and they expect the same in return. And as my friend was saying, he had a bad experience in his last year when he was working, but I had a bad experience too. But end of the day, it's just not any more reason to, because after all we left our own space. We left our own relaxing home to come here to be something, and this is how the cookie crumbles, So.
Well, no, that's a very philosophical take on it. Sorry, you had something. Sorry.
Well, you're probably wondering why I'm silent and all, letting the three of them talk. It's probably because I'm somewhat the opposite from them. Yeah, I feel like I'm a very carefree person in the sense that true, my parents send me here. They do have expectations of me, but unlike the other parents, they do not exactly place a high emphasis on my ability to do well and perform and score. They just say as long as you put in your best, no matter what the outcome is, we're happy because as long as you've tried your best, that's all we can expect from you. So therefore, they just leave me here on my own and I'm just being abandoned and carefree. Yeah, and I haven't encountered such bad experiences regarding work and such, simply because I do not require to work.
You really do have the luxurious option
much
there.
To say as well.
But that is interesting because it does highlight that the international student demographic is so diverse, and they don't all experience the same problems. And something you were touching on there, the idea that you don't know where the recourse is when you're going through these terrible problems that many students go through, and many worse instances than your story, I'm sure. And then on top of that, you have these often fantastic qualifications. You're qualified by the Microsoft Computer Science program. I know that many Indian students I've met in Brisbane often have master's degrees or something similar, but they're not able to apply that here in Australia. So when you put all that together, like the negative experiences, the fact that you probably are quite qualified in a number of areas, and then you see in the media or just in society generally the antagonism, I suppose, not all the time, but occasionally against international students and foreign people. I mean, how do you reflect on that?
We were just talking about that, and among ourselves, what we say is that I think it's a lack of understanding. And in one of the things, I think from the history of humankind itself, a problem is that often when there is an influx of foreigners, there is the sense of threat among the people that are living, and that's a very common situation. And it's not because we are saying, oh, there's racism here, racism there. It's a problem all over the world. And we are not saying because we are international students, we are viewed different. Obviously, because our skin color is different, maybe we stand out, our faces look different. But often the understanding, the misunderstanding is there. And I think that our perceptions, our misperceptions, our own prejudices in our hearts contribute. One classic example of this is me and a friend. We were walking, and at that time, like I said, I was desperate for work, and she was too. And we were walking down Swansea. We saw this shop. They said they wanted help, so we walked in. They said, we'd like to know about this job. And she says, are you permanent residents or citizens or something? That's what she said. And we just went no. And then, sorry, we're not interested. And we walked out of that place feeling rejected, and we thought in our mind that it was a racist prejudice projected towards us, and that's what we walked out with. But when we came back and we shared it in the classroom, our trainer actually opened our minds, and he said, look at it in this perspective. Maybe they were just stating a fact. Maybe you misunderstood. Did you think about that? And the more we discussed about it in the classroom, we realized that maybe we misunderstood that person just telling that. And this is what I'm saying. It's a misunderstanding on both ends. We're just going like swearing at her and saying that, look, whatever. and you know, because our need is so great, but she's just stating a fact. Look, sorry, we're not interested. If you're not a permanent, we can't work. You can't work here. It's simple as that. But sometimes these are the things I think that go into greater problems. And I think that one of the things that our trainer said is, look, take care of yourselves, but the Melbourne city crime rate is pretty high. Just be aware of that. You're going to be subject to it. What are the chances that one student that's highlighted in the media versus 10 students or 10 white young people being attacked? So, you know, when you open your mind, when somebody tells us that, we open our minds too. But if we all sit together and talk among ourselves, we're going to say, oh, you know, this happened to me, that happened to me. And we're all coming to that same conclusion unless one person takes that step of opening our mind.
Can I just, that's interesting because you mentioned your, sorry, what was it, mentor?
My trainer.
Your trainer, yes. Your trainer. You study at Melbourne University?
No, I'm at a private college.
Private college,
and
okay.
I'm studying community welfare, and he happened to be, he was teaching us case management.
Well, I mean, that's interesting that you raise that because there's also disparity across the educational institutions themselves in terms of the experience of international students in Australia. And there are so many private colleges now, tuition colleges sprouting by the thousands every year across Australia. And I think it's interesting when you raise the trainer because it comes back to the education element of international students living in Australia. That is a fundamental role that should almost be mandated, I think, from the government, but it's not. And you do have many colleges which wouldn't have that person in that position to tell you that. So, yeah, I guess do you want to reflect on the element of the education and how important that is in terms of the international student experience?
Surely. The education system over here is, I would say, it pretty much works. Well, first of all, after coming here, when I saw my first mark sheet, and it had all those C's in there, which meant competent. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm competent enough. A lot of C's in there. So I showed it to my mum. She was on Skype, and I say, hey, I've got C. And she said, oh, you got a C grade. I said, no, Mom, it's C. It means I passed. So, because back home there is a different grading system. Like, you get an average out of 100, how much percentage did you score? And the first time when she saw, as I was saying, she was a bit disappointed. She said, oh, you got just a C. So, yeah, the educational system, as for
that's for RTOs particularly, I think. Unis, I think, is a bit different. I'm not very sure, but I think the grading system is a bit different. But that's, once again, the students from the private colleges space. I had the same dilemma. I'm like, I'm only getting a C. And at one point, I drilled a trainer. I said, can you give me better feedback than this? It's like, I've given you feedback on that. I'm like, I don't want to know what she's saying good about me. Can you tell me which grade range am I? Am I between an 80 and a 90 or a 60 and a 50 or what? And then he says, we're not allowed to tell you that. And so in a way, we stand quite at a disadvantage.
And which is good, you know, because a lot of students, I'm really feeling bad to say this, but it is actually true. A lot of talented people, a lot of talented students actually commit suicide and back home. And that's because they missed a distinction by 1% or 2%. And they commit suicides because of the pressure, which is on them by their parents, by their teachers. And but as I was saying, after coming to Australia, it has made me a better person, because I used to have a mentality like that. Oh, I need to score. But after coming here, I've learned the way that things aren't meant to be so serious, you know?
Competence is enough.
Competence is enough. You know?
That's the Australian way.
Yeah, give me a C and I'll go.
And also, just if I may add, the trainers, once again, with the RTOs, one thing that we have seen is at the beginning of our course, like, I shouldn't be really saying this so much. None of you know me, so that's okay.
I should warn you, we are being streamed on the internet. So
the college where we were at, we had fantastic trainers at the beginning, and we had the best trainers. We learned so much. And now we see that the quality of the trainers are going down pretty badly. And that, once again,
do you know why that might be the case?
What I understand is that their pay scales are brought down. and the qualified trainers don't want to teach in the RTOs, and RTOs are cutting down costs because of the immigration regulation changes, and the intake of international students are going down. And the prospect, especially for community welfare students in my college, they haven't taken the license for the next new qualification. So from our batch, 2 batches, and then this course is going to close, and no more community welfare. And I think it's one of the most fantastic qualifications. You open your mind to so much, even just a normal person. And this is something that's happening, and we're just at the risk of losing one of our best trainers, what we're having right now. She's got a master's in psych, and she's a PhD student at the moment. And she's a great student, trainer, and we're just going to lose out on her pretty soon. We were told that she's leaving too. So that's another side to this problem.
So the education is there at the moment, but may not be in the future in terms
because
of...
who are running at the RTOs are businessmen.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they want money. And we are paying higher prices. I mean, I'm not complaining. We're here for international studies, fine. We've agreed to pay, no problems there. But are we getting the same value? Because they're compromising their standards greatly.
That brings in, I guess, the role of civil society when the educational institution itself is no longer providing that support.
That's right.
And I think some of you are members of a student organisation which deals with international students in Australia. I know Wessa is, but she's not here. But,
APHIS is one.
Yeah, but you're also a member of...
Couch.
Yeah, Couch. Okay. So, and the idea there is, I mean, obviously in Melbourne, for those of you who aren't aware, there have been a number of news reports. There's been a heavy media attention on Indian students, I suppose, specifically, but not just limited to, in terms of how they've been treated by the domestic population. Yeah, I mean, what's the role of your group or the organisations you affiliate with?
The Couch, that's one organisation, APHIS is another, and I see that both of them, APHIS actually, it's a project, Couch is a project by Australian Federation of International Students, APHIS for short, and Salvation Army. It's a joint initiative, and there's a student lounge or a Centre for International Students. 69 Burke Street is the place. So that's again just about last year in August 2009 they started it, and that's a fantastic place because that's where we met as well. And it's really a great place because that's where international students come and chill out, and once again encouraged to mix with their own local students. Hopefully the project still hasn't got there. We've been proposing that for a while. We're trying to attract the students, trying to break them away from that study work cycle to come away, experience something different. So it's a lot of work because we're going around talking to the students, trying to get them to break away. But they pop in, but their priority at the end of the day is somehow making it to the class and study. So and work. Yeah. So like I said, these organizations are doing a lot, but I suppose everything, like we were all discussing, like the individual has to make the decision to participate. The government can spend the money, the organizations can take the initiative, but at the end of the day, we all have to make the decision to participate, and they need to be aware. And on a general level, that's, I think, where we all stop at. We should, organizations do much. The government try to spend much. One of the interesting programs that the government has launched is the Culture Card by the Committee for Melbourne. Once again, the primary objective of that project is to get the international students to participate in the culture of Australia, Victoria, and learn about the culture, and a lot of different things are offered. Now, once again, bringing a student perspective there, Culture Card offers us the Melbourne Museum, which is already free anyway, but they say it's free on the Culture Card. And they give us a student discount, which is anywhere there, and they give us a student discount. And if I just go and show my student card, I still can go and get that same benefit. So in a way, I'm not blaming them. I'm not trying to ridicule. I appreciate the initiative, but I see that sometimes the initiatives aren't widespread enough. Now, I was among one of the first 10 students who received the card, and I see that 2 months, it was about 3 or 4 months ago, I got it, and then I never heard about that. And as a result, I never bothered to activate the card. And once again, one of the APHIS members joined the Committee for Melbourne. We initiated that again. Once again, I was instrumental in launching it in my college, getting my friends to know about it, pushing it. If we are involved, we know what the international students want. And maybe that's more or less what Australian Federation of International Students are doing, because they're having events that the organizing committee is made up of international students itself. So they know what the students don't know, what they know. And we had 2 very successful events happening, one in April and one in August. We just had it in, first one had 250 students and second one had 450 students, where it was a full day session from 9 to 4, and we gave information on how to live, what to learn, what are your rights, what are your responsibilities. So, you know, lack of understanding, like I said, we need to break it on both ends, local and us who are coming from somewhere else.
Sorry. Oh yeah, sorry, just before you do though, I mean, if there are any questions, you can raise your hand as well. So.
Just adding some point to what Manjula said, the government and the related authorities and the different organizations, they all are actually trying their best, you know, to make a connection between the international students and the local communities and trying their best. But for some reason, the communication is not going everywhere. I mean, so many of the programs that have been conducted over these months and years, I have not even heard a single one until I joined Couch. Even I didn't even hear about Couch until I was told to by one of my teachers. So I don't know, the communication part is missing. I don't know what's happening. I don't know. We have to do something about it, because from a typical international student, I can say I'm not getting any information, and even if I'm getting an information, all I'm getting is an informative session, and all this informative session are, I don't know,
One person talking to you. Yeah.
I wouldn't go there.
It's not interactive, and
Well,
it's not, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There should be something, you know, interesting.
Well, I guess we're probably wrapping up close to time now, but before we do, I guess if we could hear from each of you on sort of one thing you'd like to see happen with regards to the international student community, if you've got one. Any ideas?
Just regards to the international students community, I would love to have a much more a care from the government in terms of the public transport system.
I think just Victorians generally would like something more of the public transport.
Yeah.
We're
We're paying heaps of money, and I would love to get, you know, some concessions for the international students, because
Oh, of course, international students don't get concessions.
no,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
I heard Brisbane does.
I don't know.
I don't know. We don't get it, so because we that's one of the areas that actually we can save some money if we get it. So why not?
I think from what I heard, exchange students do get concession cards.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, so it's very strange because they give the priorities to exchange students from other countries, because when they come in, they're considered locals, so they qualify for concession. Yeah.
Any other
On the question that, on the idea that he put forward, I would like to see, like someone once said, it's about the one person, and the social change begins with one person. And I suppose that it has to happen on both ends. We're looking at meeting 2 ends that are different, but we need to go at the same pace. We need to come halfway and meet. And that's where I suppose as international students, we also should take the responsibility to seek out, look for the opportunity. And at the same time, most of us are starving for opportunities to mix with the local students. If we can have that, there will be greater understanding. As students, we all stand. Local, international is just an adjective in front. But we are students at the end of the day. We are learning. And let us learn from one another, because we want to learn from one another. We are desperately wanting. Especially the private colleges, we don't have an opportunity to mix. We don't even get to see a local student. And who will, I mean, we don't live, we live with our friends because we get to share the costs and we live. So, you know, we want that so that we can make you understand and we can exchange information and we can learn. And that's something that maybe everybody can initiate. I've been telling Couch, please do something about this, and they haven't been doing anything about it. And I finished my placement, I've finished my volunteering there, everything, and nothing still has happened. And that's why most of paper can do something, because unless we start a conversation, I'm going to have a prejudice against you, and you're going to have prejudice against me.
were there any other, did you have anything?
Oh, that's good enough.
You're good, yeah, okay. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up, so unless there's any other comments from the floor, I guess thank you very much to all of our panellists for coming along. It was a very interesting discussion, I thought. So. And as far as I'm aware, that concludes the day, so you can all go home, finally.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
You all get a seat.
Thank you.
I'm happy, blessed.